Important note, this is timeless and powerful wisdom that has influenced and improved the life of millions. Now that you just found it, you must install it deep into your subconscious mind. Read the description below this video and follow the links to choose among multiple options to aid you in achieving the optimum results you seek. The journey to success is just one decision away. Thank you for listening and subscribing to Top Mindset Growth Channel.
How to achieve success? Through a positive mental attitude. There are two kinds of people in this world. One wakes up in the morning, looks at the sky and sees the storm. The other sees the same sky and senses the cleansing rain. The difference is not in what they see, but in how they see. And that difference, invisible to the eye but felt deep in the soul, is the dividing line between mediocrity and magnificence, between defeat and destiny, between a life endured and a life mastered. This is the power of a positive mental attitude, not a slogan, not a cliche, not a mask for fake optimism. It is the spiritual voltage that charges every fiber of your being with the belief that you are the cause, not the effect, that you are the architect of your fate, the author of your future, the one who takes the raw chaos of life and sculpts it into triumph. Think of the greats. Lincoln, beaten and broken by life's hammer, still stood with a back like steel. Edison, failing over 10,000 times, still smiled into the dark until light answered him. Helen Keller, born into silence and blindness, still declared, "Life is either a daring adventure or nothing." These were not lucky men and women. They were people who trained their minds like warriors because they understood the simple, ageless truth. Your mind is your master key. A positive mental attitude is not about pretending the world is gentle. It's about knowing the world is wild and smiling anyway because you have tamed the wildest part of it, yourself. When the world screams, "You can't," PMA whispers, "Watch me." When failure knocks, PMA answers, "I've been expecting you." When darkness rises, PMA becomes the flame that refuses to go out. This is not about feel-good affirmations without foundation. This is about mental discipline, the kind forged by iron will, self-awareness, and the bold decision to believe in yourself even when no one else does, especially when no one else does. Andrew Carnegie, the man who turned rags into railroads and dollars into dynasties, once said that success is the power with which to attract favorable circumstances. And how do you attract that power? With the invisible magnet of your mental attitude. Your thoughts repeated become your beliefs. Your beliefs strengthen, become your actions. Your actions multiplied become your results. And your results over time carve your destiny. But it starts with a seed, a single, deliberate choice to see life through the lens of power, not pity, through the lens of potential, not problems. And that choice, like all seeds, grows. It doesn't sprout overnight, but it is relentless. It pushes through the soil of your past. It cracks the concrete of limitation. It reaches upward even when the skies are gray. You must become a gardener of your own mind. You must guard the gates of your consciousness like a watchman on a wall. You must refuse entry to doubt, despair, and cynicism, not because they don't exist, but because they don't serve. Earl Nightingale, who studied thousands of the most successful minds on earth, said, "We become what we think about, and what we think about is a choice. That is your weapon. That is your sword in the fight against failure." What is a positive mental attitude if not a declaration of mental sovereignty? It is the discipline to find meaning in your pain. It is the courage to believe that life is happening for you, not to you. It is the wisdom to know that every obstacle is not a wall, it's a mirror, and it reflects back your attitude toward it. Do you see it as punishment or as preparation? Do you see the loss as the end or the beginning? Do you collapse under pressure? Or does pressure forge you like steel? Walt Disney was told he lacked imagination. Henry Ford was told he didn't have the education to build an empire. Thomas Edison was told he was too slow, too dim, too stubborn. They didn't need validation. They had vision, and vision thrives in the soil of positive mental attitude. They had failures, they had setbacks, but they understood a sacred principle that the modern world forgets. Failure is not a verdict. It's feedback. A man with a positive mental attitude sees failure not as a signal to stop, but as a signpost on the road to mastery. You will fail. You will be laughed at. You will be misunderstood. But if your attitude remains unshakable, you will rise again and again until the world can no longer deny what you've built with your bare will. This is the battlefield of mindset. It is not fought with weapons. It is fought with thoughts. And the enemy? The voice in your head that says you're not enough, that you're too late, too old, too broken. That voice does not belong to you. It is the echo of a world afraid of those who dream too big. Silence it. Replace it. Drown it out with the thunder of belief. Because when you believe, truly believe, you ignite something ancient within. The dormant fire of your infinite potential. Joseph Murphy called it the subconscious mind, the hidden engine of our reality. What you impress upon it with repetition and emotion becomes the reality you walk into. So, what are you feeding it? Doubt or destiny? Every day, every moment, every thought, you are programming your future, not someday. Now, this second, a positive. Mental attitude is not just about thinking better. It's about becoming better by design, not by default. And design begins with clarity. What do you want? Not what are you settling for? Not what's reasonable, not what your family thinks is possible. What do you want? You must see it before you hold it. You must feel it before you form it. You must believe it, especially when the evidence says otherwise, because the evidence follows the belief, not the other way around. This is the law. Clarity is power, and power begins with purpose. A positive mental attitude thrives not in confusion, but in conviction. When you know who you are and what you're here to do, doubt becomes irrelevant. Fear becomes fuel. Every obstacle becomes a test, not of your skill, but of your will. Consider the life of Booker T. Washington. Born a slave, forbidden to read, and yet he rose. Not because the odds were in his favor, but because his attitude refused to bow. He once said, "I will permit no man to narrow and degrade my soul by making me hate him." That is the essence of a positive mental attitude. It makes you untouchable, not by avoiding pain, but by transmuting it into power. Look around at the world today. It will offer you 10,000 reasons to be bitter, 10,000 excuses to shrink, to envy, to complain, but you were not born to live in reaction. You were born to live in creation. PMA turns you from a leaf blown by the wind into the wind itself. It is the difference between a man who waits for opportunity and a man who creates it, between the woman who waits for the right conditions and the woman who declares the conditions. This attitude is not passive. It is not quiet. It is not soft. It is an act of war against mediocrity. It is an act of defiance in a world that wants you average. When everyone is pointing to problems, PMA is busy building solutions. When the market crashes, PMA sees hidden fortunes. When the doors slam shut, PMA builds a doorframe and kicks it open. This is the fire you must stoke daily, not once, not occasionally, but like a ritual. Every morning, you rise with breath in your lungs. You are given the sacred privilege to choose how you see the world. Will you see scarcity, or will you see abundance? will you see setbacks? Or will you see setup? There is no neutral in this life. Every thought moves you closer to your greatness or deeper into your grave. Dr. Maxwell Maltz, a pioneer in self-image psychology, discovered something staggering, that human beings act not according to reality, but according to their internal map of reality, their self-image. And the only way to change your outer world is to change how you see yourself within it. A positive mental attitude rewrites that internal map. It says, I am not what happened to me. I am what I decide to become. It says, I am not a product of my circumstances. I am a product of my decisions. It says, I am not waiting for the storm to pass. I am becoming the storm. Discipline fuels this mindset. Not the kind of discipline that punishes, but the kind that liberates. The discipline to monitor your thoughts as if your life depends on it, because it does. The discipline to hold your vision firm even as your reality trembles. The discipline to act on faith even when your eyes see nothing but failure. Ford said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. That quote has echoed through the centuries, not because it's poetic, but because it's fundamentally true. Your belief sets the limit. Your attitude expands the boundary, and action brings it to life. You cannot think your way into success without also moving, without doing, without executing with courage. PMA is not a daydream. It is a weapon of mass creation, but it only works if wielded. The man who feels inspired but never moves is like a lion with no teeth. Majestic in appearance, powerless in battle. Your attitude must be paired with action. Massive, deliberate, relentless action. But let that action be guided by gratitude. Not as a vague spiritual ideal, but as a tactical tool. Gratitude, practiced with intensity, multiplies everything it touches. You cannot be grateful and bitter at the same time. You cannot feel abundance and lack in the same breath. Gratitude sharpens your vision, focuses your mind, and raises your vibration to the level where opportunity lives. Gratitude is not denial. It is domination. It says, yes, this moment is hard. Yes, I feel pain. But I choose to be thankful, not because of what I lost, but because of what I am becoming. That choice rewires your brain. It aligns you with the rhythm of resilience. It allows you to see that the storm is not here to drown you. It is here to baptize you. Because this life is not about ease. It is about evolution. And evolution requires adversity. But your positive mental attitude turns adversity into alchemy. You transmute fear into fire, confusion into clarity, loss into leverage. You become adaptable, not by conforming, but by transforming. Charles F. Haenel, the man who taught that thought is the only reality, said that harmonious and desirable conditions are obtained by right thinking. That means if you change the way you think about the problem itself begins to change. This is not magic. It is mechanics. Change the gear in your mind, and you shift the direction of your life. But you must remain resilient, because the world will test your mindset. It will throw noise at your vision. It will tempt you with shortcuts, distractions, and defeat. And this is when your positive mental attitude becomes your anchor. You must say to yourself, no storm lasts forever. No winter can stop my spring. I was not born to quit, I was born to conquer. This belief must not live in your mouth. It must live in your bones. The world honors not those who start strong, but those who finish stronger. So be unshakable. Be immovable. Be a monument to mental mastery. Let your mind be the fortress from which no enemy escapes and no doubt enters. You are not your past. You're not your pain. You're not your failures. You are the fire that survives it all and rises stronger. This is the power of a positive mental attitude. The secret reason most people never achieve greatness isn't because they lack talent or resources or even opportunity. It's because they never mastered their own mind. They spend years decorating a prison of self-doubt. They confuse movement for progress, noise for action, comfort for peace. They let the world program their thoughts. They let fear dictate their ambition. They let rejection define their worth. And so they stay small, dreaming of abundance while drowning in limitation. But not you. You wouldn't be here listening to these words if you weren't ready to awaken. You wouldn't have made it this far if your soul didn't already remember that you were born with greatness inside you. You are not average. You're not here to be a spectator of life. You're here to command it, to shape it, to turn the invisible into the inevitable. But that only happens when your thoughts and your spirit are aligned, when your inner world becomes more powerful than the outer one. That is the positive mental attitude, not just a mindset, but a mission, a spiritual contract you make with yourself, renewed daily, that says, no matter what happens, I will respond with faith, not fear, with action, not excuse, with power, not pity. Every time you fall and choose to rise again, you strengthen this muscle. Every time you hear no and keep moving, you reinforce the armor of belief. Every time you suffer and still speak words of gratitude, you forge your own legend. This is how legends are made, not in comfort, but in crisis. Not when things go right, but when everything goes wrong and you still choose to believe. That's what sets apart the extraordinary from the forgotten. They don't wait for life to be easy. They don't hope for the wind to blow in their favor. They become the wind. And now it's your turn. If you truly want to achieve success through a positive mental attitude, you must first make a solemn vow to never betray your own potential again. You must treat your mind like sacred ground. You must plant only seeds that feed your future. You must reject every thought that drags you backward, even if it's dressed in logic, even if it sounds realistic, because the only reality you were born to accept is the one you choose to create. When people call you crazy, smile. They called Edison crazy. They called Tesla insane. They laughed at Walt Disney when he bought a swamp and said he saw a kingdom. Let them laugh. Let them doubt. Let them call your vision impossible. And then show them. With every disciplined thought, with every action taken in faith, with every day you show up when it would have been easier to give up, you are no longer playing the game of survival. You are playing the game of legacy. And that requires endurance. It requires obsession. It requires the kind of mental toughness that can only be born from a positive mental attitude, a mindset trained like a soldier, clear like a prophet, calm like a monk, and unbreakable like steel. There will be days when it's hard. There will be nights when the voices in your head return. But now you have a weapon they can never touch. You have chosen your mental attitude. And with that choice, you have declared to the universe, I am no longer waiting for the world to change. I am becoming the change. I am no longer asking for permission. I am taking command. And the world, though it may resist, will eventually submit to your vision. Because the mind that refuses to quit, the mind that refuses to bow, the mind that dares to believe again and again and again, is the most powerful force this world has ever known. That mind is yours. Use it, train it, honor it, and there will be no limit to what you can become. Because in the end, success is not something you chase. It is something you attract by the person you become. And when you walk with a positive mental attitude, you don't chase success. You command it. You must keep in mind the following. Repetition is the sculptor of your destiny. You will not become what you visualize once. You will become what you visualize consistently, daily, obsessively, until your brain starts adjusting your behaviors, your standards, your environment to match that inner self-image. That's not magic. That's biology. So listen this lesson again and again and again until it gets installed in your brain and in your subconscious mind, until you realize the results you seek.